Welcome to the Scale with Speed show, where every week I'm bringing you amazing guests, people that are bringing it out in the marketplace, people that are changing mindsets, creating motivation, creating profitability, and changing people's lives. And today is no different. I've got my buddy Jake, who I'm going to introduce you to. Jake, before I get going, you are the owner of Compete Every Day. You're a keynote speaker. You're a motivator. And I grabbed a quote, and I'm going to read it to everybody. I love this. So Jake says, I teach how to use the competitive mindset to take charge of your life, crush your goals, and effectively lead your organization to greater success. Compete every day. Welcome, Jake. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, no. So what a great mindset, right? So tell everybody, just spend a couple minutes and talk to us about, compete every day and how you even came up with that. And before we get into that, everybody, we're both frogs. Today is game day, so go Frogs, TCU.
That's right.
So jump in. Tell us about Compete Every Day.
Yeah, man. So I started the brand back in 2011, selling T-shirts from the trunk of my car to anyone that would listen to me, anyone that would give me a couple seconds. And what had happened was, I guess it was a quarter life crisis is the best way to put it. I was doing consulting, working marketing with a number of groups, and felt I needed to rebrand not only my business, but my life. I wanted to make an impact on other people. I wanted to be able to help other people. And so this idea of competing kept reappearing with me. I've always been a competitive guy. In sports growing up, I was the smaller guy. So I had to outwork and outsmart those more talented opponents. And so I always had this drive to compete. But the older I got in life, the more I started to realize there's really two ways you can go about competition. You can always compete with other people, which that ends up being a comparison game that will just drain you. Mm-hmm. It's a pace you can't keep. It's like a track star trying to run a 100-meter sprint and looking to the left and the right or behind them. Like, you just can't run at your peak speed. But if you start focusing on competing against yourself, and how can I be better than I was yesterday? Well, that's sustainable. That's where you can make some major progress. And so this new perspective on competition for me is what really jump-started it. And apparel at the time just became the channel that seemed to resonate most with people, that allowed people to grab hold of that message, knowing that the things you're competing for, the things you're trying to pursue and be better, and the person you're trying to beat is you. Whereas I'm focused on my lane and competing against who I was previously. And so that's really what kickstarted the whole journey 7-ish years ago. And since then, we've grown the brand. We have retailers around the world now. We sell online throughout our store. And then, as you mentioned earlier, I started doing more speaking, coaching, really working in that space to help people understand who their biggest competition is with, and not allowing yesterday to win.
Yeah, I love that. So you said a couple things I want to note for the audience I thought were really interesting. You said not just to compete with others, but to compete with yourself. And I think that's really important. Will you expand on that so people really understand what that means?
Yeah. So really it's, when you get into the comparison game, I love the track analogy that I mentioned briefly is the best way to put it. If you have a 100-meter sprinter that lines up and they take off toward the finish line, and then they start looking to see where everyone else is, they slow down. They run out of their lane. They run off the track. They trip and fall, because our bodies are not designed to run at our optimal speed, our peak performance, if we're doing anything except running straight ahead, focused on our finish line and staying in our lane. And the same applies to our life. If we're constantly like squirrel, looking to the left and the right at what everyone else is doing, we're not able to focus on getting ourselves better, on doing our work and getting the things done that we need to. And so instead, it's a matter of competing with that person in the mirror and saying, you know what, yesterday I was great, but today I'm going to be better. Or you know what, yesterday I didn't have it. I did not bring my A game in a relationship or in my work or at home with my family. I dropped the ball there, so today I'm going to be better. And so it's just focusing on that little bit of improvement every single day. It's that 1% better. You think about the compound effect by Darren Hardy. If you're 1% better every day, you're not 365% better at the end of the year. You're exponentially better than that because of the compound interest. You're getting better every single day. And so that's really where that is now. It's not worrying about comparing yourself to others because they're on different journeys. You don't control who they are. You don't control their talents, where they started, who they know, what kind of money they came in with. You're all in different races. And so the most successful people I've seen are the ones that say, I'm going to be my best me. I'm going to do my work. I'm going to focus on my lane, and I'm just going to run my hardest. I mean, the best analogy is the athlete. You look at a Jordan or a Kobe, they said, you're going to beat me. I'm going to be my best. I'm going to be unstoppable as me, and you're going to have to keep up with that. But I'm not worried about you because I know if I'm the best me, no one's going to stop me.
Yeah, and I think that's so important right now when you think about social, right? There's so much exposure, right? It's, the guy pulling up and it's probably fake and he's getting out of the Lamborghini, or, the lady that looks like she's a model, but it's been completely photoshopped. And everybody is so exposed to this, and they're saying, well, how can I compete with that, right? And I think that message resonates really well with me, and I hope it does the audience. It's like, listen, you can't give up. There's more exposure than ever. A lot of it is probably fake, and you need to focus, stay in your lane, and compete with yourself and focus on what your goals are, right? I mean, I talk about what's on this hat all the time, the money sheet, right? Focus 75% of your time on revenue. Don't worry about if somebody's posting a picture of a yacht. Focus on your goal that month, hit it, get a bigger goal, and you'll get eventually to whatever you want. But compete with yourself, compete to be better. I love the message, Jake. I think it's awesome, man.
Thanks, my man. Yeah, you see that social media. I mean, it makes it harder for a lot of people to maintain focus because they're constantly looking at highlight reels. Like they're watching the Sports Center top 10 and assuming that's the full story. But in all reality, like we're comparing their highlight reel to our full story behind the scenes and the highlights we have, and they just don't compare. But if you start talking to these successful people in life and you look at the things that they've had to overcome and endure, like they've overcome tons of setbacks and failures that aren't the highlights. I think it was just the other day at Inbound Conference, Alex Rodriguez was talking on stage, and people know him as one of the most feared hitters in the history of baseball.
Right.
Crazy thing is he ranks number 4 all time in strikeouts.
Yeah.
Which he fails so much going to the plate, 4th all time, but he's still one of the most dangerous batters of all time because he's focused on himself. He's focused on getting better and just doing what he can when he's at that plate.
Yeah, and you said something that I talk a lot about, the importance of failure. Because I believe if you're not competing, if you're not trying, if you're not pushing yourself, then you're not failing because you're going to fail. If you compete, if you work hard, if you go out there every day, if you get in the money sheet, you're going to fail. And it's the difference of how you manage that failure and pick yourself up and go back and compete. And I think we have so many people that get enamored with everything that's going on, and they don't understand how to deal with that failure, and they don't appreciate what you need to do to overcome it. Talk to me about how you view failure.
Yeah, so I look at failure as a learning experience. And the way I do that is 2 very specific actions that I believe all successful competitors do. The first is they bring the lessons of that experience with them wherever they go. From a success or a failure, they're going to bring the lessons of that with them. But the second piece is the biggest piece that I think most people fail to do, and that's leave that baggage behind. You see, from a victory standpoint, you can carry baggage of bragging and feeling full of yourself and thinking you won because of you. When certain things could have just gone your way. Like the scoreboard doesn't always tell the truth, even if it shows you ahead when time runs out. And so people carry that type of baggage, and a little bit later in life, it's weighing them down and it's going to cause them to lose in the future. Or on the opposite end, you have a failure, and people see that because they failed at something, they believe themselves to be a failure. And so they start to carry it as their identity, or they start to constantly just look in the past and look behind them at this anchor that's just tied to their leg. And we know the case, if you have something heavy tied to your leg, you're either going to be just dragging it and you can't move very fast, or it's pinned you down and you can't go anywhere. And so the successful people are able to look at a situation and say, you know what, I sucked there. I failed. But what did I learn in that experience? What can I take away from that moment, that experience, that next time I'll do differently, I'll know better, or I can avoid? And then they say, you know what, that experience happened in the past. There's nothing I can do about it. What matters most is what I do next. And so all they're focused on is bringing those lessons and making that next move. It's like the batter that we just talked about, A-Rod. You may strike out, you may hit a foul ball that gets caught, you may get out 6 times in a row, but then you hit 4 straight. All of a sudden, 4 of 10, you're batting 400, you're one of the best in the league.
Yeah, and I think the important message there is I believe people have to understand what it feels like to fail in order to win, right? I mean, because if you start winning, it's a euphoric feeling, and I've been at the lowest lows and the highest highs, and I know what it feels like to lose, right? I mean, to work so hard for something, to put everything in, whether it's a sales pitch, it's a presentation, it's courting somebody you're dating or whatever it is, and then to get that rejection and failure. But you just got to keep pushing through. You got to keep competing, because then when you get that win, it builds momentum and becomes euphoric, right? I mean, it becomes this amazing feeling like the greats, Jordan, A-Rod, whoever. I talk a lot about, I believe we're doing our kids an injustice, specifically mine, because mine are, 7 and 10 right now. And, we're in flag football and everybody's getting a freaking trophy.
Oh, I'm like, don't even start me.
Yeah, we can't do that. I mean, it's we need to, again, it gets back to that lesson, right? You have to know what it takes to put in the freaking work to then earn the win, or put in the freaking work and feel like what it is to lose and work that hard. Right. I think that as a society, if we don't grab a hold of that concept, we're in trouble for a lot of entitlement and a lot of nonsense where people don't know what it feels like to win, because all they know is well, when I say win, a true win, right? Everybody's freaking winning, right? Everybody's getting a trophy. That's a problem.
Yeah, no, I hate participation trophies. I've stirred up quite a bit online recently just posting about that, because you are 100% right. It robs kids not only from facing that adversity, but developing their grit and their resilience to say, this is what I need to do to get better. And at the same time, like, that's why it's so important for youth coaches to be able to come in, because a youth coach can make or break that learning situation, which at Pee Wee and as kids, like, it's not about making millions. This is not the NFL. Like, this is about the kids learning what it takes to compete, learning what happens when things don't go your way. How do you respond? Do you sulk and whine and complain and wish everybody would just give it to you? Or do you step up and say, hey, I'm going to get better. I'm going to lead my teammates, show them how they can get better. Everything that you need to do later in life as an adult, because life will not be fair. Life will not hand you a participation trophy. You learn that at a young age in sports. And so, man, I am with you. I am so against participation trophies. And I want kids to experience difficulties and challenges in a safe environment such as that, where they understand what it takes to get better, that there are winners and there are losers when the scoreboard ends. But did you do your best? Are you committed now to getting better? And are you wanting to help lead and bring along your teammates to make sure they're getting better too?
Right. So, Jake, life in general is tough, right? I mean, people are freaking grinding it out every day. If you've got kids, you're trying to raise them right. You're staying up late. You're dropping them off at school. There's a lot of like life realities, I think, that social media doesn't show, right? I mean, for someone to raise kids and have, multiple jobs and to grind and to hustle every morning, you got to get your mind right. You've got to get ready to compete, because every day will fucking tear you up and win. The day will win if you don't compete. So what's your message for everybody that's listening to this? Like, how do you get up in the morning and say, you know what, today's going to be different. I'm going to compete and I'm going to win.
Yeah, so there's a few things I do on a daily basis that help me really measure it. It's like a lot of us go through every day without any kind of measurement. It would be like going to the gym, lifting weights or doing a little bit here and there. And then a month later, you're like, well, I'm not getting any progress. Like, I'm just going to quit doing it because you haven't tracked it. You haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So I use a daily journal by a company called Best Self. What I do is it helps me plot the day. But what I feel are the most important things on there is every day you write down what your big target is for the 90-day period. What are your wins from the day and what are your lessons from the day? So you have the 3 things throughout the day that you hit on and the 3 things you might have missed, playing too much on social media,
right?
Missed getting this project done because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And so those I find incredibly valuable to help set my mind right, because when I get up the next morning, I'm writing down my plan for the day, but I'm looking at the day before and saying, okay, here's where I misstepped. I've got to be cognizant of it. I've got to be aware that this is where I let myself get out of line, or the things I did right, man, how can I do that again? How can I set myself up today to do that again? And so I think that helps focus in the entire day. The other piece is Darren Hardy talks about bookending your day, controlling how it starts, controlling how it finishes. And so that may be getting up an extra 30 minutes early to really get set. Look at what my targets are for the day. Look at what my most important, not my most urgent, but my most important tasks are for that day and get after them. And then start going. And then at the end of the day, how am I going to control how it ends? Well, I'm going to read this book. I'm going to relax for a little bit so I can actually rest throughout the night. And I'm going to plot out what tomorrow looks like. So controlling how it starts and controlling how it ends, but really getting up and putting my focus immediately on what are my biggest tasks? What am I trying to accomplish? What are my targets for the day? What are the 3 things that without a doubt I've got to get done? And then where did I misstep yesterday? How can I be better today?
Yeah, I love it. So, Jake, everybody listening, I know it's competeeveryday.com, but if, what are your social handles? Where can people get a hold of you? If somebody's looking for some motivation, how do they get their team to start freaking competing every day? How does the audience get a hold of you? How do people hire you?
Yeah, man. So competeeveryday.com, you can check it out. We have links there to our podcast, to the apparel. You'll see some links to the speaking. It's all on social media. Say hi to the team. And then on me, my Instagram is where I'm most active. Life is worth competing for. But check out my website, jakeathompson.com. jakeathompson.com. You'll see my different workshops. Companies bring me in to kind of help set their team's minds on being a competitor, or what does that look like in a team atmosphere. So drop me a note. Would love to talk to you more about how we're serving those teams and organizations.
That's awesome. Speaking of books, have you got this yet?
I haven't got it yet, man. I've got to talk to you about that today. I saw you signing like crazy. I need an autographed copy.
Yeah, so we got to – I'll get you one for sure. But for the audience that hasn't purchased it, get it. I'm telling you, the feedback I'm getting on this book, it's game-changing. I have, people that have written Think and Grow Rich for Women, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. They've done the forward of this book. It's game-changing. It's a practitioner's guide to success. You guys got to check it out. If you're not following me, @Judge Graham is on my social handles, judgegraham.com, and then scalewithspeed.com. You got to get the book. It's amazing.
And you just got the pallet of them, right? You've got them in and been signing them. I've seen pictures.
Yeah. I'm ordering another pallet. It's actually coming.
Love it. Love it. Congrats.
It's good. And people have got to get your gear, man. You've got to check out Compete Every Day. Jake's gear is solid, man. I actually just ordered the camo flat brim Mark hat. That's a sick hat.
Good choice. Good choice.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jake, for being on, and
thanks,
appreciate it, brother.
You bet, man.